Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, without further ado,
What we want to learn from this and take away from this is that whatever characteristic we see the hypocrite having, then we're going to do the opposite. Now, we see the hypocrite when they take an oath, a contract, they break it. So we're going to do the opposite. We're gonna keep our contracts. Allah Ta'ala tells us to keep our contracts because we're going to be asked about them. This is in Surah Al-Isra, in its verse 34. Surah Al-Isra, verse 34. And then Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Nahl, and this is verse 91. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ اللَّهِ, and keep the covenant with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, إِذَا أَعَدْتُمْ, once you have made the covenant, have taken the covenant with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, meaning what? Al-Bay', when we took the Bay' of Islam, the pledge of Islam, the enter into Islam and so on and so forth, then we have to keep that contract and we have to fulfill that to the best of our ability, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. Do not violate that. وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا وَقَدْ جَعَلْتُمُ اللَّهَ عَلَيْكُمْ كَفِيلًا. Allah Ta'ala, He says, and do not break the oaths after you have confirmed them, and indeed you have appointed Allah as a surety. Now, we have appointed what Allah is a surety. Allah Ta'ala is the wakil. Allah Ta'ala is the kafil. Now, Allah Ta'ala, He is the kafil. So when we have taken this oath in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and Allah Ta'ala is witness over it, and we take Allah Ta'ala as the witness and the guarantor of that in which we are making a contract and oath to. So then we have to what? We have to fulfill it. This is not a joke. This is not light. We cannot take this as something that it is frivolous, as something it is, we can just leave it. No, we have to be very concerned with honoring our contractual agreements, okay? And unfortunately, we live in a time that this has become something that is fleeting with a lot of the Muslims. They do not do this. They break and violate contracts all the time. They make agreements, then they go against the agreement. They make an agreement, go against the agreement. Whether it is as an employer to an employee, or whether it is the opposite, whether it is an employee to an employer. An employer has employed you to do a particular job, and then they cut corners, they don't do it properly. Now, this is a violation. This is a violation of what you have agreed on. They agreed for you to do the job in a manner in which that fits the standard that is appropriate. Now, and then you come and you cut corners and you don't do that. This is not good. This is breaking your agreement, because this is not what they have agreed to. And you know. Now, and to give you some an example of how you know is that, listen, if you have an agreement to fulfill a particular thing, and you cut corners, if you were to go to an individual and says, listen, I know we have an agreement and I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z, but instead I have done A, B, and C. Is that okay? And you have a feeling that the answer will be no. Why would that be okay? I've hired you to do this thing. Now you're coming to me and saying you're going to do that thing. I hired you with the expectation, and our agreement is that you use this type of material. And now you're going to come to me and say you're going to use a cheaper material? That's not what we agreed on. That's not what I paid for. You didn't give me a quote for a cheaper material. You gave me a quote for this more expensive material. You have to keep your contracts, now, and you have to keep your contracts between the Muslims, undoubtedly, and also other than that. It's not as such as, oh, they're kuffar, we don't have to keep the agreement. No, you still have to keep the agreement, even if it's a non-Muslim. قال Imam Rajab, he mentions inside of Jam' Ulum al-Hikam, now, he says in explaining and giving an explanation to this particular hadith that we are talking about now, he says, وَالْغَدْرُ حَرَامٌ. He says, breaking your contractual agreements, it is haram. فِي كُلِّ عَهْدٍ بَيْنَ الْمُسْلِمِ وَغَيْرِهِ. In every contract between the Muslim and between the non-Muslim as well. So you made a contract. You cannot come back and say it's a non-Muslim. I don't have to abide by it. It's a non-Muslim. We cut corners. It's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay ever. You have to keep your contractual agreements, whether it's a Muslim or a non-Muslim. I want you to understand that. Listen, if you enter into a country, a non-Muslim country, you enter and it is expected from you certain things. From that, you're going to follow their laws. You're not going to cause chaos, corruption, this, that, and the third. So you cannot enter that country. You cannot take that agreement by accepting that visa and entry into the country. You know what's implied by that. And then you come into the country and you make mischief. You come into the country and you do things that cause harm to people. You come into the country and you do things you cause harm to the property of the people. This is what? This is al-ghadr. This is breaking of the contract. So who does things like this? The Khawarij, the terrorists, the Khawarij people. They come inside the country and they make an agreement like they're going to follow the laws and not make no harm. Then they come into the country and they do something haram. Suicide bombing, break this, break that, shoot this, kill that, so on and so forth. Breaking the covenant, breaking the contract in which they have taken by entry into that country. Because no, if you got to the border and say, listen, why you coming to the country? You coming for business, you coming for vacation, you come to study, whatever the case is. Person say, no, I want to come into the country because I'm about to blow something up in the mall. I want to come into the country because I want to kill a whole bunch of people, so on and so forth. Do you think people in immigration going to say, give you the stamp at the border, say, okay, yeah, no problem, come on in? They're going to say, no, of course not. They're going to put you right in the jail, like they should. Throw you under it, huh? Anyway, so what they do? When they speak, they lie. They playing games, they tricking, right? Huh? All this deception, things like that. Characteristics of who? Of the hypocrites. Characteristics of the hypocrites. So don't get it confused. These Khawarij, they exhibit the characteristics of the hypocrites. They break their oath. We see it all the time. Look at the news. Look at we see it. Wa'iyadu billah. This is what's going on. This is what is real. In any event, I want you to understand, as Imam Rajbi mentions, he says, وَغَدُّ الْحَرَامِ الْغَدْرُ حَرَامٌ فِي كُلِّ عَهْدٍ بَيْنَ الْمُسْلِمِ وَغَيْرِهِ. Whether it's between a Muslim or other than a Muslim, to break the contract, it is haram.